6:32. I have Gordon Brewster.
Here.
Ryan Fry.
Here.
Peter Morton.
Here.
Cindy Martin Turner.
Here.
Sarah Craig present. David Goldberg. Swami.
Here.
And Mark Resnick planner. Great. The land use coordinator.
Yes.
Great.
Both.
Both. I just said. Right. Okay, I see somebody with the name of P. Blaisdell. Can you just tell me if you could hear us? Oh,
Yes, I can.
great,
Great.
fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Technology works.
The first we have public comment on any matters that are not on the agenda. Even though it's not public comment, I have one not on the agenda, but it's very quick, and because I was reading some fascinating. And I discovered that there's a section on common driveways, which is in common driveways, this is 8.4. And it doesn't explicitly say that the planning board has authority over the common driveways, but elsewhere in section 5.1, it says that the opinion of the planning board that a common driveway has to be adequate, blah, blah, blah. So I knew it was there somewhere, but it's not in the common driveway section. So just keep that in mind if we have common driveways. And so I don't see any public comment on matters not on the agenda. Okay. First order of business tonight is discussion with Skip Crocker about the boatyard at 15 National Ave. Yeah. We have the plans electronically.
Okay.
We can pull those up.
That's easier on you guys. It's actually the boatyard, the address is 15 National Avenue. This is the property at 3032 Bridge Street, which is actually owned by Pembroke Realty Corporation, which Crocker's Boatyard, I own both properties. I rent it for myself and stores all this. We do some service there. What we're proposing is about a 14,000 square foot primarily storage building. We do some service work in there. Similar to what we're doing now, we have a 4,500 square foot building, steel building, which I think we put up, or my father put up in roughly 1998, maybe 1998. There's also like about a 3,500 square foot fabric structure there, which we'd be taking both those buildings in and putting up a significant larger building. Have water and we're
Plan. That you want to tell us.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
We have water, sewer, and sprinkler system going into that.
That back.
But so we can point to it.
It's gonna be taken down. Okay, do you have a site plan?
Building. That's one building right there that would be taken down.
And then,
There's noticeables going on.
right,
Just a small.
yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
So we put it back on the,
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm guessing the scroll between the two. Between.
what is that?
He's got it. Sorry. I can't just scroll between the documents that I'm
Oh, gosh. There you go.
Yeah, so that's a steel building that would come down. That's a fabric structure that would come down. That's actually an office trailer that would go away.
So your purpose in coming today is just to let us know?
Just to get some feedback, I met with Mr. Resnick, everything is allowable under the current bylaws. If there's anything I need to cover,
Not really, we kind of looked at the site, I mean, it was covered in snow and boats.
Great.
But,
the snow's gone, the boats will be gone.
You in the summer?
No.
Yes. Weddings?
Or maybe a barbecue.
We occasionally have had the party up there in September.
So it's a general, it's in the general, but it's in the general district. And yacht storage, construction services and related use are an allowed use in the general bylaw, in the general district. So, and then the other thing is that, remember, the harbor management plan identified supporting marine-based uses as one of a priority area.
This is an storage district?
No, I don't.
Not sure. I know Ashland Avenue is not clear. No, I think Paul Orlando said it's not. Sure, how you find it.
There's a map on the website, if you want to pull it up.
Yeah. Right, that's very, pull up that.
I also. Some yards.
We are gonna make every effort to not make it look like a giant metal building.
How high is it?
Good luck.
I think 26 feet at the east.
Okay,
I think that's what we need is like 27 at the east.
it has to be less than 35.
It's gonna be significantly under 35, or like 5 feet.
It appears not to be in the Manchester district.
We're gonna use a
It's
insulated foam for siding. Try to make it energy efficient as possible. We tend to use radiant floor heat. Heated storage.
Did you say when you intend to start building it?
I did not, trying to figure out what it's all gonna cost.
Yeah.
Then figure out how to pay for it and then trying to figure out what I need to permit, what the town's gonna require. I think we pretty much nailed it. And that was sort of the purpose of this meeting, was to see if there's anything we may have missed that we need to include in our design plan. You guys come up with anything that we may have missed. I feel like we've gone through the bylaws pretty thoroughly.
You put up the site plan here.
That's there?
I got it.
So. Tell me, I can use coverage. How much was the impervious?
I can put up to, I think by rights, 16,000 something in this one.
The lot itself is pretty big. It's
Just under an acre, it's like 1,000.
The one in the front, so for like screening and buffering along the east side.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've already got arborvitae's down this, there's the neighbor's barns there. We will put some sort of, probably arborvitae's or something along the, after construction along the back. There's a pretty good row of arborvitae's along the back of this building, which I don't know if they'll survive the demolition of that building, but if they don't, we'll put them back. Trust me, I want it to blend in as much as anybody else. I got 2 big buildings in Essex, and we've done everything we can over there to make those.
Parking area will remain gravel.
Yeah,
So there won't be any additional impervious aside from the building itself.
no,
And approximately how far off of Bridge Street will that be?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It's pretty far back.
Though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the length of the building.
Yeah.
Need to maintain a fair amount of, as you know, we had 66 slips on water and have to maintain parking for all those customers, employees. We're doing a bunch of boat sales now, so we have to, and in the winter time, I have to, we still do outside storage. We'll have to move. We're not maximizing outside storage in the lower yard. We'll move more boat chassis for outside storage.
So currently, when you bring boats in and out, you bring them out beach, Great Road, and a little right away to Ash.
Well, over the years, we've sort of changed our business model. We're really focusing on 40-foot boats and under. Most of those boats we can safely maneuver through I have an easement through my dad's property at number 7 Ashland Avenue. So the majority of boats will still come through there. Some of the bigger boats, maybe in the 35-foot class and up, we will bring in through Bridge Street. If you go back to the other picture with that shows the doors.
So you will still be able to go down by your father's.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question. I wasn't sure whether.
Yeah, some of the longer boats, we need to hit that door. That's where the bigger boats will go in. Because that'll be more in the center of the yard. We'll have a straighter shot. The height. Well,
Group heights 30.
yeah, we got 12,
That's what the elevation.
25, 27 at the eve. So
27, 33.
Yeah, it's a big.
oh, so it's closer to 35 than we thought. Yeah. Yeah, 33.
It seems like you.
Will this be a formal submission to us?
Yeah, yeah. You'll have to file for a site plan review with the planning board.
Yep.
So,
And why is that? What triggers?
his application, whenever he files.
Yeah, but what, and it triggers it because it's a.
So it's a new structure, so in your, structures over, I think,
Oh, over certain
yes,
size.
certain size, yes. Remember, we rewrote the applicability section for the site.
Okay.
Nothing jumps out.
Yeah, we have to be, McNevin, my neighbor, he's pretty on top of me with like lighting and planting, he already. He's got a whole new fresh row of shrubs.
So one of the things you could do is there are a bunch of performance criteria in the zoning bylaw. So you should probably just make sure you address those in the application.
I spent 10 years on the Essex farm,
You know,
or 9.5.
So the trigger is in addition to an existing structure occupied by commercial use resulting in a floor area of over 400 square feet. For total disturbance, lot average, coverage of over 1,500 square feet. Any new development, expansion or change of use requiring 5 more deep parking spaces, so.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it's like, but it seems like. You know, I'm not gonna get any concerns. Great. Thank you.
I'll be very interested to see how we make this look like something other than a big barrel.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it is what it is.
Maybe in Europe.
I think Thank you, folks. Enjoy your evening.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Okay, great, thank you. At 7, we have the citizen petition. But why don't we jump ahead and if we can talk about driveway regulations in 15 minutes. That will keep us focused on driveway regulations. Mark, you want to just tell us why we're talking about driveway regulations and remind everybody what?
So You have a general bylaw, which at one point, had planning board reviewing every driveway in the community, and then that got amended. But the amendment, the driveway allows you, the planning board, to adopt regulations that the standard could be. So a year from now, would be a little over 2 years ago, you adopted regulations. I think that was the board. So, what we noticed is that, so in the past 2 years, it worked reasonably well. But in looking at the bylaw, general bylaws, there are some things in there that are more standards that should be in the regulations that are in the standards. There's a few things that are a little bit conflicting. So in our previous discussions last summer, when we made, we didn't adopt the changes, but we worked on this. We moved all the code standards to the regulations, and then we made some additional changes to the general bylaw to give more review authority to the public works, and only under very unusual circumstances would a special permit with the planning board be necessary. So that's kind of a quick summary.
So, comments or questions on the draft regulations? I have a couple wording things, but not. One of the things that we had debated hotly or at length a while ago was the issue of having 2 driveway entrances. I know Laura Tenney felt very strongly that in order to use impervious surface and traffic conflicts on the major roads, that one driveway entrance should be allowed. And that was one of the things that sometimes that seemed not the right thing. And sometimes not what the owners want. Those might or might not be the same thing. And the existing bylaw makes 0 provision for an exemption or on that topic or some of the other topics, but that one is the one that has come up several times. There's that's an issue. So this does allow for DPW to make a determination that 2 a looped driveway is okay, or 2 driveways, two entrances.
So it's per unit, because they're in the neighborhood where I live, there are plenty of driveways where there are 2 entrances, but one is for one house, one is for another, and they're smushed together.
So we denied a driveway permit for an ADU in exactly that circumstances. It was appealed to the ZBA and the ZBA granted it.
Yeah,
So that's a good example.
because that's throughout town. Right?
Yes, that's a good example of why 2 driveways for a lot may make sense.
Mhm.
So the one thing that I sort of in reading through this felt is that I want to make sure that DPW really that they really do refer certain driveways to us. Because I think of one that is not a 90-degree and does not follow the design standards that didn't end up coming to us. So, that's just sort of the formal process. But other than that, I thought it sounded. I have a couple of edits, and the only other substantive thing I had was: would we want to specify any lighting as dark sky compliant? Any post lighting or
But that is already covered by the lighting bylaw.
it's only covered in we don't have lighting bylaw. It's only covered in the special permit pieces of lighting bylaw. I'd like to have lighting.
Okay.
So I have that in my notes. I have some
Okay,
edits.
so we could add something that,
Wouldn't it have to just be driveway entrances?
Driveway entrance lane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not all along the driveway.
Right.
I mean, it'd be nice, but I'm
Right.
not sure.
And
This
to
is the
the, yes,
place
and
for
we
that.
recommend.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, and then the rest are just kind of rewording things. One place you say we shall conduct a site visit, another place you say we may. They may, so
Yeah.
I can give you.
That the last thing should just be deleted.
Yeah.
Someone's comment.
Or choose. But this also went through the fire chief, right?
yes, yes, we had a meeting.
Right. So we can post this on the website as the draft. And the point is when we change the general bylaw, we can say we reviewed regulations, they're on our website. And as soon as the general bylaw passes, we would promulgate these. And that was what I wanted to.
So procedurally, we test them.
We
We
passed
don't
the
have to go
regulations.
to them.
Correct. Right. So probably need a different title on this document that says what it is. Title should explain.
As planning board regulation.
And to Tiffany. Okay, any other comments or questions? This is Sarah's comments. Okay, I'll do this. Great. That's done. Let's just take up the minutes. So we're gonna go ahead. Have minutes of March 17th, 2025. Somehow we get, and Brian and Sandy cannot vote. So
March 7th.
2025.
Here we go.
I
Yeah,
have
we're
the
really
test.
doing.
Yes.
March 17th.
I remember that meeting.
Hold on.
Kendall's really doing.
St.
Well,
Patrick's.
we've been trying to get everything caught up. So
Yeah.
Hold
Oh,
on.
good.
I didn't look at those,
I
sorry.
think it was just a,
All that's in the folders.
yeah, they were in like March. I think they might just be a working group. Yes, it was a working group that we discussed zoning changes for the annual town meeting and voted to submit the accessory dwelling units and articles for the associate thing where we took a vote and then we jumped. So that's all it says. So I'll take a motion to approve March 17th.
So,
Second.
second.
Sarah, Sue, Chris, Courtney, Peter. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Abstaining is Brian, Sandy. I'll take a motion for September 15th. Brian was not present.
Actually, I looked at my notes and Brian was there.
Oh, okay.
But Sandy was not, and I was there.
Okay.
But my notes could have been wrong, but
Well, they probably were, that was.
There were your notes, you were there.
it wasn't a concession.
Okay, so check correcting September 15th attendance was Brian and Sue was there, but Sandy was not, right? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sandy abstains. November 4th. I think Brian was definitely not there. That was the baby texture. Motion to approve November 4th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then I'll take November 8th, 2025 and March 9th, 2025. Edits, take those together. Everybody can vote.
March 9th, yes.
Yes,
2026.
Okay.
Okay, is it 2026?
26.
Yes, it's.
Okay, so let's take November 8th, 2025. Yeah, I bet it's March 9th too. Okay,
So moved.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then March 9th, I actually have considerable
Me
edits.
too.
So, I think the best way to do it is actually to send them back to Kendall she doesn't reflect Laura Penny's comments
Or the letter.
Yeah.
or the letter, and she also.
The most recent one.
Yes, that was last meeting. There was significant conversation about the drainage and the site, the ADA. So I think the thing to do is get more detail on the public hearing. So I think let's hold on that one. Great. Okay. Great. The- Do you want to give us a, maybe just a quick update of where we are on the communication stuff for the town meeting? We'll come back to that after the hearing.
So I met with Tiffany on Thursday and we worked on updating the downtown zoning section website. We put, she was able to cut a clip of just the downtown zoning hearing from our last meeting, and that's on there. I mean, it's a little, rough, but that's okay, we're not professionals. But it covers, it's still a half hour. And she really feels like if we do a 5-minute thing, a little walking tour, I have time to do that. So does she. I'm happy to do it. If someone would like to do it with me, that'd be great. She wants to post it like 2 weeks before town meeting so that it's fresh. It just helps them with 2 people walking and talking to each other. So helps capture people's attention. But I'm happy to do it by myself if no one else is volunteering.
When would you want to do this, Sue?
It would probably be like around the beginning of April, so we have enough time. Maybe in like,
Stuff's raining.
yeah.
It would be good if you did it with her because you're on the downtown.
No, I would like to do it with you too.
Awesome.
Timing
We'll
for
coordinate.
for me right now.
Yeah,
I'll be back in town for good around about that time.
yeah, well, we can coordinate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be
great.
fun.
Yeah, great. And so then we're gonna put on the one pager once it's finalized.
One piece of paper.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did a one pager about the downtown, so everybody should proofread that. There was a mistake on Harbor's Edge residential on the first floor. It said special permit, changed it, but the most recent one but I'm sure that everybody should try to find one. mistake.
Where is that?
It's it's in the packet
This
tonight.
week, okay.
Yeah, I'll also put it in the communications folder for the projects. We only have a communications folder. So it's got narrative on one side and a chart of the uses in downtown. So we don't have to try to do that in this meeting, but
What's the date of it? The one I looked at was 3/23.
yeah, that's the most recent one.
That's the most recent.
Oh, it's called down.
Yeah, down.
The zoning.
Like one page or something.
Yeah, it's basically it's a single piece.
Single piece of paper, yeah. So the,
Got it. 323.
And that will go out to,
that'll be a
Residents.
handout
and
at,
it'll be handout at town meeting.
Oh, when you say it'll go out to residents, so it will be part of.
Is it gonna be part of that book?
no.
No,
we
it's
have
not.
Handout,
Okay,
sorry.
Get that,
Okay.
just a handout at town meeting.
It's also the senior housing one pager.
Right.
Which I sent to Tiffany and she said she posted.
Okay. We should probably put that up for everybody to look at as a one pager for town.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then the way we usually work on doing who's gonna speak, I usually decide which consultation, so we'll be in touch with you about speaking at town meeting on various things. And it usually works well for us to take the frequently asked questions and think about who, like we did for that first forum, who's gonna answer them. Say you'll answer the one on whatever height and you'll answer the one, so that the public sees all of us. So we'll take that up. We can come back to town meeting her back, but and stuff, right? So now we're gonna turn to the public hearing. This is I'm gonna take a motion to open the public hearing regarding the citizens petition. And the petition is to see if the town will vote to amend the zoning map of the town of Manchester by changing zoning classifications of 115 School Street, 117 School Street, 119 School Street, 121 School Street from residential District A to residential District B. And Peter Constantine is here to present, he's the opponent of this, so I'm gonna let him present the rationale for doing this.
Take a vote to open here.
Take a motion to open the public
So
hearing.
moved, second.
Chris?
Yeah.
Yes. Sue? Gilbert? Yes.
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
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 Great. Peter Constantine.
Do you all have a little deck I handed out, is that all right?
Sure. You have a, did you send that to us?
I did, and.
Okay.
You don't want it, no. offense.
No, it's, I just, since it's a public hearing, I wanna,
Yeah, it's the exact deck that I shared with,
Okay, great.
oh,
I think you am up on some crazy to pull it up. Thank you.
did that get the fact?
I don't know, because this is one of the older,
Yeah, that's the new one.
one of the older.
I did go.
I don't think that is in the package.
But what's in the packet was the map of the proposed changes.
Yeah.
Right, was there and the petition and stuff.
Yes, that's what I put in.
Yeah, that's really.
It's very useful to see the existing though. So that's it.
One of my neighbors is watching and has it, I could ask them to share it on the Zoom if that's helpful.
Sure, we said that to Chris.
Yeah. Chris, you there?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Okay, Chris, I'm gonna, make you co-host and you can share the images, that would be great.
Is there any way that email I sent you could pull up the deck, Chris?
Hang on a second. Do. Give me a moment, Pete. I'm sorry I didn't have it directly in front of me.
Well, should I get started or wait for now?
You can get started if you want. I'll work on bringing it up.
So again, I'm Peter Considine. I live at 25 Pleasant Street, which is actually just outside of the proposed rezone location. I also recently purchased 115 School Street, which is within the proposed rezone area. And as mentioned, I submitted a citizen's petition to rezone 115, 117, 119, and 121 School Street from residential A to residential B zone. Now, this would be a continuation of the zoning that is across the street. Been here previously, mentioning my aspirations to reposition 115 School Street. What this zoning measure would allow is for the conformity of 117, 119, and 121 School Street, all of which do not have conforming frontage in the existing A zone. It would also allow for a practical and modest repositioning / development of the 115 School Street property, which is 1.3 acres in the village. And it's a pretty simple petition. I'm a resident who's trying to improve my property and the neighborhood. and to for a long time, large blighted property. And I am asking for the planning board's support in this measure.
One question for you,
Absolutely.
looking at the map of the people, the A district that is to the north of the new district that you're proposing
Yes,
is all the county club, is that correct?
that is correct.
So what?
The county club.
So it's everything on this side of School Street except the Hume Club. That's correct.
Pete, can you see the screen now?
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
And so for those watching, it's going from the current zoning is the pink. And if you could just scroll down one page, Chris.
Yep.
Proposing is to turn those 4 properties to the zoning across the street to the B zone, which what that means is actually, I think it's important. The next page is everybody who has a check mark on them has agreed to support this petition, sign the petition. So it's everybody who's, I will mention that Sheila Goddard, I wasn't able to meet with her prior to submitting the petition.
Didn't see.
She is in support and she's happy to do what's needed, but I sat with her. She is in support. I was scrambling to get the paperwork and I wasn't able to meet with her prior. This represents everybody I met with signed the petition. So the only ones that I haven't that aren't checked off, nobody's resisted. I just haven't met with them yet.
So to. Questions, Sarah?
Yes, go ahead.
All these properties are owned by separate people, correct?
Correct.
So you are the larger of the 4 parcels?
That's correct. Yeah. So I live here and I purchased this property.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah. And my,
And so doing that, now when you go to a different district and the zoning requirements are significantly.
it's somewhat different, I would say. The largest changes are the minimum lot area goes from a half acre, 22, or just nearly a half acre, 22,500 to 15,000 square feet. And the minimum frontage goes from 150 to 75 feet. And there's some obvious changes in setbacks in the coverage areas.
So would this change make all of those properties to School Street conforming
Correct.
in all dimensions, not just frontage, but in all dimensions?
I believe so. I believe they're all over 15,000 feet. Yeah.
Do you want me to go down, Pete? Or is that
Perfect. Yeah. Really, I did add a set plan into the deck for 115 School Street. But obviously, we're here just to talk about the zoning today, so I didn't know how pertinent that was, but I also didn't want to do like that. Thank you, Chris.
Ultimately, in doing this, that would allow you then to, as you said right here, redevelop and subdivide your parcel.
It would allow a path, and notably, it would allow a path that would allow for the house to remain,
Old house.
the old house that's there. Because, and we talked about this previously, but a subdivision of that large site in the current zoning, the only way that my engineers can see doing that is by creating a right of way that's 40 feet wide, which would necessitate it's coming down.
Honestly, it seems like an awfully good idea. You wonder why it's got so places. Yeah.
I agree. I'm
Yeah.
obviously biased, but especially for my neighbor, a half acre requirement in the village seems it's contrary to the town's goals and having 3 out of the 4 sites in the area. I think it's practical. Again, I am biased.
So
for the other three properties, if they're now conforming to current zone, then they'll be able to make changes more easily without.
I assume so. I'm not an expert, but I understand there are many houses in town that are non-conforming, and I didn't present it to them as a big deal that they're in a non-conforming lot scenario, but if I were them, I'd be comforted to have a conforming lot now.
So, two things. One is that zone A is beyond, is more than just the Essex County Club.
Right,
It goes all the way, to Mill Street.
Yep.
Um,
it goes
So,
all the way to 128, basically.
sure.
But in terms of the age of the homes and the general notion of School Street as really part of the whole kind of town center of it, very different than the rest of the Gateway district, seems to me.
Perhaps the other thing that I noticed when I looked at this, my mouse with me, so, is that that the many of the parcels along School Street have the greater than the 75 feet. So, but not the 150 feet. But in yellow is 115 for the parking lot.
Not sure what you're saying.
And so I'm saying that the 75 feet, while the acreage is
Good map.
is consistent with perhaps the existing houses, frontage of those houses in that area exceeds the 75 feet. So when you divide 115 into two, you only have a 75-foot frontage rather than the existing 100 that's customary along there.
Doing this.
This is also in the water supply district. So that means that there's more by allowing greater impervious surface, moving from, was it 25% to 35%?
30 to 35.
But not much.
Yes, from 30 to 35.
No, C, it's gonna be on this notes. It's currently in A.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask a stupid question.
Yeah, hit me. You want me to call? I see you guys.
We're sitting here first. I'm looking at the logistics plan here. I shouldn't be doing this right here, but the access to the larger property in the back is off School Street, correct? And then this one will be, reconfigured
As part of this would be an expansion of my property.
expansion of your property. And
Correct.
this property right here stayed as is,
I did.
that big old beautiful house on it.
That's right.
And then this is nothing is back here. You're planning on building the house back there, right?
I am not planning on developing anything. I'm planning on selling a house and possibly having my brother live here, or I would sell it to a third party.
And in so doing, by giving the 75-foot rezoning at 75-foot frontage along School Street would give you,
It would give you a path. Obviously, would need to come back to you and the zoning network once the zoning changed, but it would give you a more.
does this property just become a larger land area? Or are you gonna develop this part?
It would just be land. I wouldn't develop it further.
So one of the things that's just one pass. If you were to sell it to somebody else tomorrow, they might see a different path and take the house down. So it's not a guarantee that the house is gonna stay. It's not a guarantee, nor is it our purview. Whether he takes a piece and joins it with his land.
It's,
We're just talking.
Yeah, we're just really talking zoning here.
yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you for being so forthcoming on this.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, no, and I agree that there are avenues this could take, but this is very much my plan if the zoning is to go through.
Mark, when, what's the usual, process for looking at, rezoning parcels? What's the-
What do you mean? So, I mean, you don't call ever having the board do a site visit, is that what you mean? But the normal process is for whether it's permitted by petition or by the board itself, like if we're looking at redistricting an area, we hold a public hearing, which is what we're doing now. At the close of the hearing, the board needs to vote a recommendation to town meeting. And then that recommendation is presented to town meeting along with the article and voted on. Pretty much the process that needs to be followed.
Any other comments from the board or questions?
So the net effect of this could be maybe one more unit. Because the other properties on School Street not conforming, but they don't. They're not gonna be able to add units except ADU.
Well, no, that's not true, because the, District B is 15,000 square feet. So some of them have more than a half acre. One of them is 0.6.
They're on the front
But
of
they
it.
don't have,
Then, well, they could, it's true.
I mean, it's kind of consistent in some ways with what we say we're trying to do in the town center, which is to make it simplified, to not overly burden property owners. And also to make things that the zoning has made non-conforming, conforming, and something to.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the town center?
Well, kind of, I mean, yeah, just, I mean,
village.
that it's,
Right?
yeah, I mean, if you look at this zoning now, right? I mean, this whole area is kind of,
Or densely?
yeah,
Okay, let's see, are there any comments from the public?
I mean, I'm here. I obviously share my screen. So Chris Day, owner of 117 School Street, and just I would say, as Pete noted, I'm completely comfortable. In fact, supportive of the plan. It would be nice to be in a conforming lot, all things equal, and definitely supportive of kind of the plan he has for moving forward with the property broadly. So. I would just say, as far as a neighbor goes and the one who directly abuts 115, I would be very supportive of this.
Okay, any other, thank you, Chris, any other comments from?
Sarah, just, our purview of this today is really just whether we
supported attempt.
grant the change. As far as this is the aspirational view of what you hope to do with it, but you
absolutely,
come back to something.
absolutely. And it may still need variances. It's still a conceptual plan, but it's geared towards the B zone.
It's just, we're not granting this, we're just recommending, not recommending for town meeting. Town meeting needs 2/3 vote to do this change.
The only other thing I would say in its favor, I do live in the neighborhood. And what's across School Street from it is a neighborhood very like this. And it's zoned,
And Pleasant Street is D, which is one house.
yes,
Yeah, right across.
Is this
the street.
a, is 115, 117, are they on sewer?
Yes.
Okay, so the next step is we need to close the public hearing for no more comments. I hear a motion to close the public hearing, a second,
Second,
all in favor? So I did check with Mark and with, Eli, moderator, and we actually do need to take a position, recommend or not recommend. That's our job. I would like it. So I'll take, any discussion on that or a motion?
I would move to recommend this to council. Consistent with the area and the general things we're trying to do to improve the zoning.
I would second that.
Right, any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss this a little bit. I have two, not concerns, but they're points to make. One is, this is going to benefit one person essentially. And, I mean, that's his right as a citizen. I'm a little uncomfortable with the board supporting a single property. Although I do recognize that the other properties become conforming, and that's a good thing. My other issue is that there are probably a lot of places like this in town. And, you know, I'm not saying we should study them all and then come up with a recommendation. But it would be nice to have a more general context for doing this than just a single development opportunity. Those are thoughts and not taking a position one way or the other. But I just wanted to make that.
Chris, could you elaborate on your first concern?
Well, he has every right to bring the petition to town meeting. The town meeting is going to vote on it. It's their decision, not ours, really. And they'll probably, I don't know whether they go on with it or not. I've never seen this happen in this town before. You know what happens in other towns all the time. I'll be curious to see what happens. And I don't think our recommendation is going to make too much of a difference one way or the other either. And in fact, I think we could certainly say this is not going to have a big change in the character of this part of town. And all it's going to go.
Am I allowed to speak in this phase of the?
I think we're closed at this point, so I'm just debating.
Yeah, there's like the only thing I would say, Chris, to the first point is that, that it's a little piecemeal. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. If you come across things that don't work in a town this age, why not address them?
Fair enough.
Because there are lots of them, is my impression from my reading.
And I do think, Chris, too, you said it benefits one person. I agree with that, because you see that petition signed by all the owners of the lots that are going to be impacted by this. So
Sure.
Clearly it's more than one.
Yeah, I recognize that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's always good to bring properties into conformance.
Yeah.
I think that the other thing that I just want to make, one point I want to make, I agree with Chris's first point. I feel like when you buy something, it's the way it is, and then but it is your right to try to change it. The fact that it is currently at, right, that's the minimum lot is 22,000 and the minimum is 150. There are ways to draw a subdivision to divide this into two lots. You put in a subdivision road and put your frontage on the cul-de-sac and have, it happens all the time. So, this could, whether or not you would do that with or around the house or not around the house, I can't say, I'm not an engineer. But it happens all the time. So there's enough acreage here to do a 2-lot subdivision, and a subdivision process is a pain in the neck for all involved. But what it probably is not enough land to do is the plan that is contemplated, which is carving off the pool and joining that. because you need so much land for this, for the subdivision road, which is arduous, but so I'm not sure where that puts me on where I feel like to vote, but except that, 1.3 acres, you could make 2 lots, two house lots.
Is it bad to make 2 house lots? Aren't we trying to?
No, I guess my point is the outcome is kind of the same. So if we think we're trying, in my own mind, I was thinking it's a single house lot, 115. But as I kind of thought through it, a creative engineer could make it into 2 house lots. Because there's an acre and 1.3 acres. So I guess that kind of brings me to thinking that we could rezone. The outcomes are largely the same. Potential outcomes. I mean, the house aside, but I still, I'm not comfortable with the process, but. Any other comments?
Just a general question, like, is there any arguments to be made, keep it in A? Because we haven't really heard another side of this, which I realize, we have a lot of support around, I'm comfortable that the neighborhood is in support of this. I think that's key here, but, for the public hearing, you haven't really heard any of the other kind of side about keeping it in A.
I think the water supply protection district where you have less impervious. Okay, any other comments? All right, we have a motion to recommend this citizen petition at town meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks. Opposed? Okay, great. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Okay. In the hour now. So, next up, Karen,
She's on, yeah.
yes, okay, 7:30. Mark, want to introduce Karen?
So Karen is on Zoom here. She is,
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Karen. She is planning consultant who has written the past 2. She did the original and amendment 5 years ago of the housing production plan, and we have engaged her to continue on to update the latest the plan as it's required to be done every 5 years. So I was not here. I've never worked with Karen before, but I think some of you on the board were here.
Was here.
Chris was
I
here.
remember Karen.
Hi there.
So take it away.
Sure. Yeah, I worked on the housing plans in both 2015 and the latest one, 2020 and 2021. So I'm delighted to be back working on your housing agenda again for Manchester. So thank you. And my proposal, the first thing is a meeting, and this is where we're at tonight, just to kind of kick off the project and go over. I thought I'd go over briefly the scope of services, and then maybe you folks could fill me in on any kind of important activities that have happened since the last plan was prepared. And we can talk a little bit about maybe some people that I need to touch base with over the next couple months. So what I'm going to be doing is pulling together a lot of data and distilling that information into a housing needs assessment. And I figure I'll be able to get that done based on the proposal within the next several months. And then we need to talk about a little bit about the public process. When I get the draft plan, housing needs assessment completed, we'll meet again to go over, get your comments, and then be prepared to do some kind of public meeting, whether you want to do the workshop format that we did a number of years ago, or do something a little bit more simpler. Really follow your lead on how you want to proceed. And you don't have to make decisions tonight, but just ponder how you see the public process playing out. And then with that information from you folks and from the community, I'll prepare the next sections of the housing plan, which focuses on the housing production goals as well as specific housing strategies to address the needs that we identified in the updated housing needs assessment. And then we'll do another public forum to present the draft and get additional comments. We need both planning board and select board approvals before we can submit it to the state. The state is moving pretty quickly on reviewing the plans and coming up with their approvals. So that's always a good thing. My proposal suggests that we can do all of this within the next 10 months. So that's kind of a nutshell of what the process is per the proposal. If you have suggested changes, I'm very, open to those. I really kind of want to go with the flow on what you think is most important, and certainly involve you, very deeply in the process. So, do you have any questions just on that piece?
Can you explain why the housing production plan is important?
Yeah, what's its purpose?
Well, there's a number of reasons to do a housing plan. Fundamentally, it's good planning to have some kind of an agenda for the town in the next few years to focus on local needs and priorities. So just good planning. Second is that housing production is a subset of the Chapter 40B regulations that were meant to give greater local control over housing, obviously to communities, such that if a community has a plan that meets all the requirements under housing production and it's approved by the state, it then produces actual housing of the equivalent of 0.5% of your year-round housing stock. And for you folks, that's 11 units. Then it gets what some people refer to as safe harbor, or it's technically called certification, where you have 12 months in which you have the ability to deny Chapter 40B comprehensive permit applications without the developer's ability to appeal that decision. If you produce 1% of your year-end housing stock, then you get a 2-year safe harbor. So a lot of communities look at this as some protection. And then it's great for grant making. It's good to have updated information on demographics, on a lot of economic information, and particularly housing information, where you get, I really try to splice and dice the information and provide data from multiple sources. So, there are numbers of reasons, but I think fundamentally it's good to have a plan to help address community needs. And we all know that the housing market in Manchester is very robust for those who can afford to live in Manchester. I also think these plans, because they go to the state, represent an opportunity to highlight efforts that the community has undertaken in a proactive way. And And I also think this planning process can be instrumental in providing community education and outreach on the whole issue. Does that give it?
Yeah, go ahead, Sam. Yeah, could you, I didn't quite understand what you were saying about safe harbor. It appeared that there were two levels. One sort of was a 2-year safe harbor, and what was the other?
Yes. Yes. So if you produce 1/2 of 1% of your year-round housing stock as units that are eligible to be included in that subsidized housing inventory, units that meet a number of state requirements towards getting to that 10% affordability threshold, you have the ability, you can document that, submit it to the state, you have the ability to deny what the town considers an inappropriate Chapter 40B comprehensive permit application without the developer's ability to, appeal that decision to the state. If you produce 1% of your year-round housing stock, which is like 22, 23 units, then you get a 2-year period where you have the ability potentially to deny what you consider comprehensive permit applications that don't address local needs. So it's 0.5% or 1%, 1 year, 2 years.
Okay, and that is regardless of whether we currently have a 10%, which we do not.
No, it's part of the whole planning, housing production plan. It's having, a plan that's approved by the state and then demonstrating production to get to this period where you can deny inappropriate applications.
Okay, I'm still a little,
So Sandy, if we have 10% affordable,
right,
we meet the SHI,
and we're done.
we're done. But we're not there.
Right, if we're
We're
not,
only 5%.
right.
And
but
I
if
can
we're
tell you,
not there, do 11 units,
Then we get.
a 1 year, okay.
But they have to
yeah,
be
yeah.
affordable,
Yes,
quote
I do.
unquote.
Yeah.
It's not just any units.
That's
Right,
right.
right.
But I've worked on housing production plans for communities who have more than surpassed the 10% goal. Not because they want safe harbor, it's because they want a plan in place and they want the state to approve the plan and see what they're doing. So, clearly most communities are looking at the safe harbor, meeting that 1% or 2% goal, but, others still have opted to do them.
Question / comment. So I'm looking at the last go around of the HPP that's on the website, and just looking at the titles of the various sections, it's a 105-page document. So I just, glancing at it, but I can't imagine there's going to be any change whatsoever in 5 years. And I also think that Kathy provided a lot of this demographic information in that comprehensive exercise that we did. So my question is kind of twofold. So it seems like these are recommended to do in 5-year increments. And my question is is that what we want to do, considering that it's unlikely that there's going to be much change 5 years ago?
Actually, can I?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Well, actually, there have been a couple of big changes, huge changes. One of them is the MBTA communities.
Right.
Compliance. And another is the ADU bylaw that so there are all kinds of things that they're going to change what the housing production plan says.
Not in this report, though.
Sure. Oh, in the.
I mean, how many ADUs have been built since that?
So that's a question. How many should we build? Do we encourage them? Do we try to make them go away? What do we do?
Yeah.
Is that a good way to get to it? Can we make them affordable?
Right.
So, so a couple things. First off, the new census data has come out since the last housing production plan. So all of that data needs to be updated, put into this new plan. may not change dramatically, but it needs to be updated. And the other thing is there's other things that affect housing, such as our approval in the construction of ongoing construction of CST. 250 jobs in the first phase, another 250 potentially in the second phase. That's going to have an impact on housing. Our downtown zoning, needs to be brought into the discussion of this plan. So there's been quite a few things that have happened in the last 5 years. Will it ultimately change the goal and the need that we have for housing across a variety of types of housings? Probably not, but it'll kind of bring it a little more up to date and a little more in focus. And it may, give us, something to hang our hat on the next time we try and do some zoning changes to allow more housing. If the results of this plan say, we need a lot more housing, I guess what we've been doing. But what we've been doing the last couple of years is fairly significant, even though it hasn't produced a lot yet. Over time, it probably will.
So this is all data. There are no recommendations in here. It's just pure data.
No, their recommendation.
There are recommendations in it too. Okay.
Everyone should read that.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that. 110 pages. I can just, yeah.
It's 100.
A lot of it's in the appendices. I mean, but still.
You're prolific.
So one of the big recommendations on the last one was we need senior housing. That's why I've been.
And look where we are.
Chris deserves his own page.
You're right. No, I'm very interested and curious about this. I think, but I'm just, 5 years just.
So are you maybe suggesting that we don't do the?
No, I'm just querying for it. Whether a 5-year sequence is appropriate.
So can I ask the question a little bit differently? And then, first of all, is the state required every 5 years? Is it
It's
required?
not required. You don't have to do it at all.
Okay.
So, and other.
They expire after 5 years.
So that means your advantage expires after.
Yes.
Yes.
The benefit of dealing with safe harbor expires with the plan.
Okay, so my other question, my other way of sort of stating your question is, how do we make a, we're a small community, we don't have we have the housing, affordable housing trust. Well, two questions. Is it an affordable housing production plan? Or is it a housing production plan?
Right, two different things.
Because those are,
Yeah,
because I would argue we've added a fair amount of housing.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many units.
I'd be happy to address that because a lot of plans, while the safe harbor relies on units that are eligible for the subsidized housing inventory, and that would include some rental units that are part of 40Bs because all units count in 40B rental developments, even though maybe only 25% are actually affordable. But a lot of communities realize, and I think this is probably an issue with you guys, is that even those who are earning above the 80% of area median income, well into 120% even beyond, are still not competitive in the current housing market. So that their suggestions, strategies include other income tiers beyond just those below 80% of AMI. So you have the opportunity to, if you wish, to provide, a wider range of incomes to help diversify the housing stock and make it more affordable. And also, if you are interested in some longer term goals, we can integrate those into the plan, although the state will approve it for only those 5 years.
Okay. And then my second question was sort of to Peter's question, instead of doing 104 pages of
Data.
data, which is, I've looked at the data, I mean, it's pretty interesting
It is,
data,
yeah.
and it's not as, it's, I think it's quite surprising when if you haven't looked at it, do. But, are we better off to do like a deeper dive on the action plan? How do we get it, like, if we take it at face value that this plan is largely gonna be similar, while the numbers will change, we've done MBTA and senior housing, we hope, and others. But still the action of how do you operationalize the zoning change, the builds around the zoning changes. We don't have a development department or a housing department here that builds things. We don't have a public housing, not that it's not affordable. And then we're also, many of our units, that's one problem I don't know how to solve. We keep saying zoning won't necessarily make it get built. And then the other thing that we hear over and over, if Garden Morse were sitting here, he'd yell it, is that it is very difficult to have these one or two units registered, and the process for getting a affordable unit in these small developments, which are the kinds of developments that we actually want and are trying to incentivize, is so difficult that it's virtually impossible and is almost a deterrent to having it happen. How do we get at those kinds of issues? Because we hear that over and over. And we've made zoning changes that say if you have 5 units, you have to have one of them affordable. If you have 10 units, you have 2. But what we hear is it's too complicated, so how do we get at those kinds of solutions that, those kinds of problems that maybe, but how do we get at those kinds get to those, solving those kinds of problems?
Well, first of all, I mean, I really try in the housing production plans under each strategy to put what's the current status of this? What are next steps for implementation? So there's a sense of, what you need, what resources you need, what approvals you need in order to get it done, and some timeframes as well. So when you think that we should beef up on that, I'm happy to do so. On the issue of including affordable units, it is a rigorous process, as far as making all the requirements. But communities are doing it. The communities that have some staff support that are targeted to do that kind of work, or reach out to a nonprofit for a fee to do that work, that makes life a lot easier for inclusion. It's hard to rely on volunteers to pull all that documentation together, but it's also important the developers know what the requirements are, and as much as you can shove on the developers, the better. And we'll really try to make that clear in the housing plan.
But I think that's part of the point, is that the more you shove on the developers, the less likely they're going to take on additional burdens to make a project like that, small project like that, come to fruition.
Yeah.
Is there any function at the state level? Many years ago, I worked for the state, and there was an attempt to get a certain sort of energy facility built. And there were people at the state level who were charged with basically streamlining the permitting and the process for getting the projects into the ground. Is there any, comparable function like that in the housing group at state?
The state has a number of functions related to affordable housing, and they monitor, for example, the affordability requirements, et cetera. But there's, the localities have their responsibilities too to make sure that the units are compliant and, eligible for inclusion in the SHI.
Well, there's one thing of being the police and there's another thing of being a facilitator. Right?
Well, you have a housing trust, right?
Yes,
How involved are they in all of this?
they're trying to be involved as much as they can.
Yeah, maybe there is a way that they can bring on some part-time support, professional support to deal with some of these issues.
Yeah.
You have CPA money and, maybe there is there's a way of actually, paying for some services related to this and making sure everything is done appropriately and working with the developers and working with you and working with Mark.
Okay, so our action tonight is to kick this off, and get an introduction from Karen, but I think we've done that. What are the next steps that we need to do? We've already voted, I think, to accept the proposal. So she's gonna come in and have a working session or begin her data collection. What are the next things?
So she needs to know who to get in touch with.
Okay,
So I'm gonna say right away, the Affordable Housing
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you. What?
The Affordable Housing Trust should be on your list right away.
Yes, and yeah, I'll be in contact with them and also if there are other, particular people that you think I should interview, I typically interview, someone from the Council on Aging and Housing Authority and et cetera.
If you give me a list, I can get you the names, when their
Thanks,
next
Mark.
meetings are,
Yeah.
get you on
Yeah.
the agendas.
Yeah.
For like Housing Trust meets remotely, so you.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
so
And
all of
yeah,
that,
and
I'll be your primary contact.
perfect. Yeah, we should have a chat.
Yeah.
One of the things I really would be really useful for me is to get a sense of what things have happened since the last plan
Yeah.
was completed, just to bring me up to date. That would be very helpful.
Right.
Other
Okay.
than that, I'm just going to start working. I am listening to you. I mean, do you really want me to do a slimmer version of the housing needs assessment? Is it too onerous, you think? Or I don't want to, I tend to do more than most consultants because I think it's important to have understanding of the underlying community context. But I can try to be, I mean, I do a lot of analysis that's not, that a lot of plans don't have because I think it provides useful information on the market, et cetera. But I can try to be cognizant that you think there's too much
what I'm
data.
gonna suggest is that you start your normal process of talking to people, and that we tend to be quite a thinking board. So we'll put as our homework to review the plan and think a little bit about what goals we want to get out of it. I think spending your time helping us to
Yeah.
really think through how do we implement things is probably at least on my list. So if we all take a look at the plan and particularly the action section, and we'll put some time on our next, maybe not our
Yeah.
next, that's right.
Yeah, and
But
think
right
about
after the meeting to think with you about, to answer that question about how much emphasis should it be on the numbers and where else should we put our emphasis? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, that would, any input from you folks is valuable to me. So that would be helpful. When you're looking at the housing strategies, it's helpful to have thoughts about, what needs to be tweaked, what we don't need, what items should be considered as part of this kind of 5-year housing plan strategies. So give that some thought too.
Well, I also think you have a wealth of knowledge about affordable housing. It might be good to have an in-person session with you here where we come up to speed on the affordable housing requirements, where we are with it, and brainstorm collectively how the planning board specifically can take actions. So we'll put that on the agenda for maybe early May.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
So Karen, I'm looking at your proposal right now. Are you effectively gonna start task 2, all the background data? Is that what you were gonna do?
Yep.
Yeah, all the stuff seems very relevant to what we get, no matter what we decide. I think it's worthwhile gathering that information.
But I think
A lot of
having
this information the state will want to see,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, no, I'm going to be updating that data
Okay.
and talking to
I
some
think
folks.
you asked what we want out of it. I guess I would like to become more well versed in where we are and what the requirements are and how do we make progress toward
Yeah,
that.
I agree with that too.
So. Okay,
Okay,
great. Well, thank you. Nice to meet you virtually, and we will look
Yes.
forward to here at a meeting. Probably after the town meeting, which is April 27th.
okay, all right. Everybody take care. Mark, we'll be in touch,
you.
okay? All righty, bye-bye.
Look forward to it.
Okay, next up, is John here?
It was here.
Oh, no, Adam's here next. Sorry, Adam's next. Sorry, didn't mean to skip over you, Adam. I know you like to listen to all of that stuff. Okay, Adam, let's see. Mark, why don't you explain what we're doing here?
So Adam, after we voted last week, we had the final version, and just before I had it signed and submitted to the clerk, he let me know that there's a couple of conditions, specifically number 15 and number 17, that he felt that should have some adjustments to clarify a few items, and these are the ones related to the drainage and the one related to the sidewalk. So I'll let Adam explain what he's proposed.
Yes, the team seems to be working with DPW on both these issues. The number 15, which is with regards to the storm sewer connection, we're going to comply with the general bylaw for that anyway. But there's a condition that I think the board wanted to insert a determination language with regards to the DPW in that one, and that was okay with us. We just wanted to make clear here that we're talking about if it can be feasibly done without the use of a pump, because we're not going to be pumping groundwater up to try to get it to a drain pipe. You don't want to have to rely on that, have a generator at the fail. It's not good engineering practice. And our understanding is that DPW is fine with that language in 15. Then 17 is concerns the sidewalk.
Just stop.
Sure. Yep.
It does say that, correct?
Is that actually the language that you're looking at? Actually, I was going to lead off by saying I'm not sure we have much to talk about, because the meeting packet document that's uploaded, I think, is in everybody's screen. We're fine with that. That is just great with us, and that's been the result of the back and forth with me and Mark this week, and the client working with Chuck Dan as well. So 17 relates to the sidewalk at the meeting last week.
Finish on that one. Let's just talk about them individually. First of all, it should be if elevations and conditions in Union Street. Right? Not Beach Street.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yep.
The last
So actually, I
sentence.
think I think that's because we're referring to the manhole that's.
The manhole is in Beach, I think, it's right up.
The manhole is up gradient from the site. And so I think that if it wants everybody.
So we say Beach, can we say Beach?
That's
Let's say
what it
Beach
says.
Union. But elevate, you don't even need the last sentence. I just say if elevation conditions prevent this, say, drainage. So, I asked Chuck Dam to weigh in on this, and he said, I want to, he said this type of project is under, meaning less than the threshold for stormwater rules, or is under, I don't even know if it means less than stormwater rules apply. So unclear. It's under 20,000 square feet and it requires a special permit. Our thought when we wrote it is that most projects will require a special permit, require Concom approval. We wouldn't make them do a special stormwater permit. I think we would need to adhere to the Mass Stormwater Handbook because it's for fewer units. That's not really applicable either. So it's a little bit unclear what he's saying there. That said, I've talked to him a few times and I do want to see more due diligence on the roof leader discharge. I do not want to go down the street. That's preferred compared to the sewer, which is what I suspect is the existing condition, or on the sidewalk. So that answers the question of potentially where the existing water is going, potentially to the sewer. I said I would want to see some additional inverts and elevation on the existing stormwater system and see if they could make it via gravity. It's no problem. There may also be utility conflicts, which would be part of the due diligence I would expect. I'm comfortable doing this submittal and approval during the building permit phase. I assume that's where the DPW approval would be. If they could do the connection to the existing stormwater, then I would have them do a road opening permit and have all the conditions for restoration of the street there. We would still own the road or right of way. They don't meet our requirements. They don't do a good job. We wouldn't close out the permit, or Paul could withhold the occupancy permit. So I guess he's saying he's comfortable. He said he's comfortable with the language as proposed in number 15. I'm fine with the language proposed. I'm comfortable. I'll be able to review and comment on this during the building permit phase, protect the town's interests.
Because it does seem to be an advocate of gravity flowing to existing stormwater.
Right, but he also says that we don't know where those,
Don't know how to do it.
we don't expect them to do it. We don't know where they can do it.
It's upgrading it from site, so we're assuming it's higher, but depending upon what.
But it's the inverse isn't, man.
What the inverts are, he wants to know if the invert in there, if it's this way, you're in
Right.
trouble.
Right.
This way, you're in it.
So it could be a pretty deep manhole.
Could be.
And so, it may be, again, without knowing, and so, I talked to Chuck as well. Chuck said he had a meeting a while back with, the applicant, and the engineers, and that they were supposed to bring him information on the manhole itself, the depth, as well as the other utilities in the street, whether it's feasible. So when they get all that information, they'll be able to determine whether it's feasible, whether there's enough depth for them place to pour out the manhole, so on and so forth, and do the burning. So I think this condition basically says that's what they need to do unless there's some sort of condition that doesn't let them do.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, we did. Let me just back up, and that is that because we voted on the special permit conditions, we had to bring it back to the board because these are amendments to those special conditions. Okay, anything else on the stormwater? Questions?
No, if the proponent is agreeable,
Yeah.
that they can connect to the stuff.
If it can be done, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, great. Now sidewalk,
Right, it's a similar issue, when it was discussed last 2 weeks ago on the sidewalks, there was a request to the applicant make the sidewalks ADA compliant. Sidewalks will be ADA compliant in the sense that the ADA requires maximum feasible compliance. But right after the meeting, we met with our engineers the day after and sort of determined that it's because of the existing grade, it's going to be infeasible to have a compliant, spec ADA sidewalk at the bottom of the driveway. The sidewalk will be ADA compliant all throughout the building, in front of the building, but in front of the driveway, you need to have a 1% grade at maximum, and which it just can't be done. So we wanted to say again here, and we understand DPW is reviewing this as well, that again will comply to the maximum extent feasible as determined by the DPW in accordance with their requirements, which I think is the language in the meeting packet, which is fine with us. But we didn't want to misrepresent or somehow promise to the town that we could do an upgrade to that extent. We're going to do what we can. It'll be smooth. When it have bumps, it'll be in much better condition than it is now. But there's an electric manhole that's right in the driveway that has to be dealt with as well. So we're going to be able to achieve compliance to the maximum extent we can. A lot of that will be determined in the fields, once we see what's there for a sub-base ledge, things like that. But we wanted to make sure that was clear in the decision and weren't going to have a problem later when folks looked at it and said, well, wait a second, this doesn't quite meet what we be able to require or something new.
Next question. So when you say it can't be done, does it mean that it's too expensive? What does it mean it can't be done?
Well, in order to create the ADA sidewalk, you have to have a flat 1% pitch. So you'd have to have a ramp that would go up, go for like 3.5 feet, that would go up again even steeper. So you'd have cars that would be bottoming out at the bottom of that ramp. So you really, it wouldn't be possible to do it because of the grade of the existing driveway, that pre-existing condition, the slope, which just comes straight down to Union Street. You can't just even it out and have it be
So
safe.
did they figure out what that cross slope might be?
They haven't, we don't know what it's going to be because, I mean, if we did construction documents, we'd be kind of taking a shot in the dark because we haven't done excavation, we haven't looked at the manhole, so it hasn't been, finally determined exactly what it's going to be. It's going to essentially track existing condition and we might be able to improve it somewhat, but we wouldn't want to give folks the impression that it's going to be a flat sidewalk because that it wouldn't be feasible to have cars driving up.
So I guess what is troubling is it seems like the person who made the presentation should have known all that. And there was no statement that that it can't be done.
We immediately, the day after the hearing.
Right, but I'm talking about during the hearing when we voted on the conditions and voted to grant the special permit.
But you couldn't, first of all, this is an upgrade. This is not within our property. This is an upgrade to the sidewalk that's being requested. The special permits have 3 units, not 2. So it really, I viewed this as part of site plan approval. So immediately the next day, you couldn't lawfully have a condition that is not feasible to comply with. It has to be reasonable to satisfy. So, you can't change the geometrics. You can't raise the level of the whole site or, lower the level of the whole site. We've got a lot of ledge to deal with. So we're just being upfront and saying we're going to comply to the maximum extent we can, which is complying with the ADA. And we can't guarantee a fully compliant sidewalk, just at the bottom of that driveway location. And we're willing to improve the whole sidewalk with pavers or whatever the town standard may be at the time. But there's a limit to what we can do. It's just not feasible.
Why can't the slope of the sidewalk just under the driveway be moved back into the site?
If the engineer, I think Peter Blaisdell is on the line, he might be able to speak to some of the details in more succinctly, if Peter's there.
Hi, everybody. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. To answer, I'm sorry. One of the members has asked why didn't we know that at the meeting? Those comments were, I think, emailed to me a short time before that meeting last time from somebody that asked for a condition that was put in, but I did not know about that condition prior to that, so I was not able to determine if it was able to be done or not until I took a look at it the next day. To answer your question, as far as can that slope be pushed back, so as it is right now, when you get to the back edge of the sidewalk, the driveway at that point starts to go up the slope at about 20% slope. If you were to do an ADA compliant ramp and crosswalk there, you would have to flatten it out so that was about a 1% across, and you would actually have to drop where the trench drain is almost 12 inches vertically. You would then have to, yes, exactly, you would have to push that back into the slope a little bit, but then you would have to meet the existing slope going up the hill. You would change that slope from a 20% slope almost up to about a 27 or 28% slope, which is very, very steep. So remember, you'd be coming from the street, which you'd have a very steep section. I'm sure you've all seen new parking lots and entrances these days where as you go up the ramp from the street, you literally bump up in the air, then it flattens, and then you would instantly be going up at almost a 3-to-1 slope right from the flat slope. So the other thing is there's an electric manhole there. There's a trench drain there. And then there's, if you look at Google Street View, if you all have your laptop in front of you, take a look at it. It looks like there's an electric service that runs right across the driveway from the electric manhole, runs up that wall, and then we're not sure if that goes to the house in the back or where that goes. You'll also notice there's ledge all along the side of that driveway. So I don't think it's a good design. I do understand the intent of that, but as you probably all know, you cannot take some of these roads and sidewalks that have been here quite a long time and then all of a sudden just force them into, current standards that you would be doing for a modern road. It's just not going to work. It's not compliant with, if this were a brand new site, we could probably work with it, but I looked at it a bunch of different ways and I don't think it's possible to do it.
Okay, so I did ask Chuck about this and he said that Chris is not here, that understands that Chuck is going to be looking for, so he said Chuck would be looking for existing and proposed plans on the ADA issue at the driveway and looking to see notes on what is feasible. The other thing I did is I went back and I looked at the tape from last time and Sue is correct. Minute 38. There was a assurance that this would be able to be ADA compliant. So that's background. My proposal on this issue is that we leave the language as it was, which is and here's my thinking. By being here tonight, we are proving that special permit conditions can be modified. And that this is still a project that has got a lot of work and engineering to be done. And once you've found out where that electric service is, found out about that manhole, found out about the ledge, you said what the actual slopes are going to be, then you get together with Chuck and at his recommendation, we modify that condition if we need to. But that would be my suggestion, is that we leave it as is, removing the language to the maximum effect feasible in accordance with the requirements of the DPW and to the maximum extent that's twice in there.
So
and we leave it as is.
So it as is in the March 11th draft.
Correct. That would be my suggestion.
On number 7.
Number 7, yeah. And I listened to the tape and the granite curbing, the plans showed bituminous curbing and the applicant represented and we require that the side that the curbing be granite. That should be in here somewhere.
Sarah, if I may, that's going to be a significant problem. So that if that ADA language is there, and you just heard from an engineer that, irrespective of what was said 2 weeks ago, you just heard from an engineer that that's not feasible. I don't think anybody has. That condition requiring an upgrade of the sidewalk to be compliant with current ADA standards. You're asking for an improvement from the applicant. We're willing to make whatever improvements we can, but we cannot promise or meet that condition. That condition cannot be met feasibly. It's an impossibility, and it will stop the project over an improvement that you're asking for. We're willing to do the maximum extent feasible, which is what the ADA requires. You're essentially requiring something more than what the ADA would impose over what really is DPW's jurisdiction. We're happy to work with them. We will comply with the ADA to the maximum extent feasible as they determine. But, you know, if you leave the condition as it is, unfortunately, and that's not gonna be a condition that can be satisfied.
Well, you see the problem though, when we rely on experts during a hearing, we make a decision. You know, we've all spent a lot of time reviewing it. We make a decision based on what is presented at the hearing. And then you come back and say we can't do it.
Well, respectfully,
It just, it,
no, but respectfully, that, what I think the time, let's all remember the timeline. That, I think those comments came from Laura Tenney on the Friday before the hearing. So by the time they filtered through to us, it was already really the day of the hearing that Kendall sent them to our office to review. So we look at things as fast as we can.
could have moved to continue the
But
hearing.
there shouldn't need to be a reason to continue the hearing for something like this, because the ADA requires that you comply to the maximum extent feasible. It doesn't require perfect compliance with the new standards.
So
It
if the,
recognizes that there are existing conditions that exist. And also, this is in the public right of way. This is not within our project site. This is squarely under the DPW's jurisdiction to make that determination in accordance with its regs.
so if the ADA says to the maximum extent feasible, our condition, you would be compliant with it if you are doing it to the maximum extent feasible.
But-
It's like saying to the
No, because I
maximum
think your
extent feasible.
condition is drafted to say that we're gonna construct a sidewalk that complies with ADA standards. There's a difference in the language, and I think without the language in 15, 17.
I'm very confused. Adam, Sarah, help me out. My understanding is what Sarah's saying, Adam, is that in the March 11th draft, which you earlier said item number 17 was fine with you, it has the maximum extent feasible language in it.
No.
You have to have
This whole document was produced I forget the drafting, but this condition, I think, was after the hearing. Mark, you emailed this to me.
Right.
What it says here is it says the cross slope shall meet the ADA, it says the sidewalk shall meet the ADA cross slope requirement.
To the maximum extent feasible.
Sarah's proposing to take out to the maximum extent feasible.
Oh.
We need that to make it work, because this is not saying you're gonna comply with the ADA. This says you're gonna meet the cross slope requirement. And we technically have determined that can't be done.
So technically, this does have to comply with ADA standards in a general sense.
Correct. And this will comply with the ADA, if the ADA allows compliance to the maximum
So it
extent
seems
feasible.
like this is hair splitting, but
John, can you help us out?
May I?
Yeah.
So there's a process, very easy, well, relatively easy process that one goes through with the MAB. By the way, I don't think this is an ADA issue. This is a Massachusetts Architectural Access Board
Okay.
issue. And there are guidelines that we try and abide by. And if you can't, there's a variance process by which you apply, and you have to show the impracticability of a solution. And if it's truly impractical, they grant you a variance.
And this is also in the side, we're talking about the public right of way.
Yeah.
what if it just simply says that the sidewalk and driveway entrance must comply with all state regulations?
The ADA is a federal,
State and federal regulations.
because the sidewalk is a public facility under the ADA. So then the DPW is responsible for maintaining this driveway entrance, just like
Are the things that you're doing modifying the sidewalk?
only to the, I mean, we're not, if our plan is to reconstruct it as close as possible as we can, but the sidewalk there's a manhole, there's an instar manhole in it, there's a trench
But
drain.
it is new.
Well,
It's being demoed and
Yes.
put back.
it will probably be repaired and replaced in place. So basically, the intent is to make whatever, if we can improve the condition of the slope from what it is now, we intend to do that. Which is, again, why we're talking about the compliance to the maximum extent that's feasible, is essentially all we can do.
So this is the issue, is that this is not fully designed right now.
Right.
And you're seeking approval for.
But almost no project that you're seeking a special permit for is fully designed. And the Friday before our second meeting, We had one meeting, and we had this notice, we had sort of a month, and the Friday before that second meeting, this comment came up about an upgrade that the town is asking the applicant for.
That's,
And we're saying yes.
that's true. I asked you for a cross section.
I-
I asked you for a cross section showing that.
And
And then
they,
we have- It showed compliance. Your cross section on page A.2
I
shows
don't
the
think
driveway
that cross
coming
section-
down and then the other.
that was not a construction document.
I know, but that's the point, that you represented in the public hearing that it would be compliant. And with both a drawing and your engineer.
So I know like public works often, but in the few communities I've been at, for example, like offsite improvement, connected subdivision to the street in front of half a dozen homes where there's no sidewalk. Not fully designed when we approve the subdivision, but the applicant brings back the drawings for this to the planning board for final review and approval at some future date. You know, with the input from public works, if they get involved.
I think we can,
And so if we use this language, but add it, that, and shall return and present the drawings
that-
to the planning board.
the problem with that is that it's continuing jurisdiction, so it doesn't really.
Well, but it's kind of a condition, you need to do something to the sidewalk in the driveway as part of this project.
Right.
So that's directly related to your proof. So I think having that come back, at least for a review with the planning board and a presentation of this is how we're gonna fix it, and this is what Chuck's comments, and this is how we got to here, is perhaps one way to.
I think we can present to you, but I don't think it can be a subsequent condition, because then we're paying jurisdiction. I think it's the same project, the same issue that I think the CBA ran into with SLB. As a board, you can't issue an approval and then have a condition that retains your jurisdiction, because then it's not an approval, unfortunately. So, but we certainly are looking to reconstruct that sidewalk to whatever standard the town has. If you're requiring pavers, whatever you want, granite curving, I think we already talked about that. That's fine, but we just can't guarantee that cross slope at that driveway is going to meet the ADA standards. It's heard from here. It's not feasible to do. We're going to do it to the maximum extent we can. We're going to greatly improve it from the existing condition, but we just can't promise that it's going to be compliant with that cross-section requirement.
So my suggestion is that we leave the condition as it was, change we had at the intersection of the driveway and Union Street sidewalk shall meet ADA cross slope requirements. So we'll just say read ADA requirements, because if Adam's assertion is correct, ADA requirements have a feasibility provision.
You say in compliance with the ADA?
Because that, and just get rid of cross slope requirements and say, and then in accordance with the requirement and the requirements of the DPW. Because
So take out
cross slope. Take
Yeah,
out cross slope, take out maximum extent possible, but if ADA has maximum extent possible as part of it, that's the law or the requirements. If MAB is the authority, then it seems to me that we're saying, yeah, that's, but
I mean, so could you, what is exactly it going to say? It's going to say,
we're going to delete your edits.
okay,
And we're going to delete the cross. We're going to delete the words cross slope.
And then delete
so it shall meet the ADA requirements.
and then get rid of to the maximum
Yeah,
extent feasible.
so your edits were both the addition of to the maximum extent feasible in accordance with the requirements of DPW. Strike those, and it will simply say at the intersection of the driveway and Union Street, the sidewalk shall meet the ADA requirements.
Well, okay, it's like you're in that if there's requirements, that implies that it's gonna meet the technical requirements and it's not gonna comply with the law. So I think it needs to say, if you say shall, can you say the sidewalk shall comply with the ADA?
Can we say ADA or MAAB, whichever is appropriate?
That's fine.
That's-
That works.
Move the claims be approved.
as recited by the chair.
It's like one of your, have one of our citation.
Well, it's
Just be sure.
I haven't signed it yet, so I'll make sure. Okay. Do I have a second?
Oh,
Changes to 15 and 17. Are there any other changes that we need to take up? Hold on.
I have another problem with the document as written because it says one public comment was received from Gar Morris, 11 Jersey Lane, for the project that expressed concern. There's no mention of the discussion during the hearing of the issue we were just describing. There should be at least a sentence that the board discussed and
Correspondence from Laura Tenney.
right, because the chair read portions of the letter during the hearing and asked for input from the applicant on that issue. I think we need a sentence in there that reflects that.
Thank you.
I'll amend my motion.
Okay. You remember?
Yes,
Second. Okay. Any other discussion? I'm going to assume that the granite curbing is within the DPW requirements. So, okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Right. Thank you. Next up, Dawn.
You guys want to come out?
I'm comfortable, I know the property,
Yeah.
because 30 and 36 Pine Street. Even price book, they're like, once to the spelling, we could do something like Grand Tool Street, where the 48 something was, that is. So, like a big hole. Well, what you did approve for me was a 4-lot farming, so 3 4 lots. One of the size and so one of which contains the hatch house, the right. Right, that has recently been sold. They've done some improvements to the inside. You don't want to risk that for the 2 farm days. What John's going to talk to you about tonight is the back lot, which is been given the address of 1 Deerfield Place. I feel like what he has to tell you, but I thank you for this information. But it's John Schiff. Thanks for joining.
So we did share our plan and a sheet of renderings. Have you all seen that?
Yes.
So it's pretty interesting actually, because I think we, maybe Mark, and wouldn't be surprised if you all had an assumption that the new 3A zoning, like most zoning, was inclusive of typically single family homes. And then certain other uses would be added to a zone like the general district if multifamily were allowed, and so on and so on. So we were focused on, for the most part, the total number of units, which we talked a lot about during the 3A process. As you know, in that area of Lower Pine Street, there's a table very carefully laid out as to how you would determine the density of those lots and so on. When Tom divided that property into the 3 in the front and 1 in the back, that essentially made 3 lots in the front that were single family, or whatever the underlying zoning would be for that, which is actually single or 2 family. And then a rear lot of a larger square footage, and no lot can have more than 5. That's the limit in the Lower Pine Street. So when Tom and I were chatting and Tom expressed his interest in the project that he wanted to do, a few things were very clear. One, he wanted really to not maximize the site, but do something that he felt was reasonable. And in his mind, looking at that site, because of the context of the neighborhood, the single family homes was something that he wanted to do. And in fact, I don't want to divulge too much, but Thomas mentioned he might actually live there one day. So this is something that he might build and occupy at some point. So in our minds, we're thinking, okay, 5 are allowed. Tom wants to do 4. Great. We seem to be in good shape. It wasn't until I sat down very recently with Mark when we realized that the way the 3A zoning is written, we read the allowed uses. Single family is not included in the allowed uses. So we're in a weird moment right now because I think probably all of us in the room would say, oh, of course, a cute little assortment of buildings would be perfect in that spot. The neighbors would love it. It's not high impact on that area. But in fact, the way that the 3A is zoning, it actually wants you to do something denser, wants you to do something perhaps bigger, at a minimum, two families. Again, Tom has a very specific desire to do single family homes. That's what he's always done in his work. And it fits into what he wants to do. And he believes it's the right thing for this site. But we're at a weird moment where what seems to be the right thing to do, potentially, is actually allowed. Not to bring up old arguments, but I was always worried during the 3A zoning process that we were creating zones in areas that would be difficult to do any reasonable size. That was the purpose. I totally understand, right? That the town wanted to be careful with how the 3A was defined so that certain size things might be avoided and smaller developments might be focused. So it's almost doing exactly what we wanted, but there's a little snafu perhaps in there, which doesn't allow what might be the most appropriate in some cases.
So unfortunately, our definition had to be approved by EOHLC. And their definition in their regulation, I'm sure you've read it, is more than one residential unit in each building. So there's no ability for us to change our zoning because then our definition won't comply with EOHLC. I mean, recall all the approvals we had to go through. Now the AG, I don't see a way around it. It's the state's regulation.
So,
I was just reading it.
okay, except if we don't remove definition of multifamily housing, and we don't remove the ability to do multifamily housing, but we add the ability to do a single or 2 singles or a double and 2 and 1. We had always talked about someone wanted to do 4 units, that we weren't going to say you had to do 4 in one building. That you could do a 3-unit building and a single, or someone might have a single family home and want to add 3 units. So what we kind of discovered is that the bylaw doesn't actually allow that. It says it all has to be in a multifamily building, which is 2 or more units. So,
But the definition wouldn't allow that.
well, but so we can add things to the bylaw to allow single units, multiple single units on a lot. It doesn't take away from the option of doing multi-unit in a building, but yet giving additional flexibility. So you're not removing the compliance. So Tom, if you could do 7 units, I believe actually you can do 7 units on that parcel.
No,
Yes.
Yes, because there's 3 along.
Before it was subdivided, it could have 10.
Yeah.
So he could have theoretically 7 units in the back. It'd be small, but he could do some building. So we're not removing the fact that he could do 7 units. We're adding the allowance of clustering individual detached buildings on a parcel. And so I did discuss this. I got an email back from town council that says her opinion is kind of similar, it's the same thing, that as long as you don't require them to do something different, you're just allowing another option. So
I don't see how it works.
Are you proposing zoning change? Is that what's happening?
well, that's what he needed to do.
So that's gonna be a year away.
It would be whenever the next town meeting.
Yeah, well, it could be a year.
How large is the back lot?
Just square feet. About 0.8.
Yeah, I was saying about 0.7. So
Wouldn't they do it under the D1, D2 anyway? You wouldn't have to do it under 3A?
Let's have the frontage.
Oh, I see.
So you could do it under a multi-family dwelling with more than 4 dwelling units. If, but the problem is they have to be attached, that's that. But that might be an easier variance than a use variance. Right?
Well, sure, it's not a use variance.
Is that a single lot in the back? It's one lot for buildings.
And how large is this one?
Under.
This kind?
Yeah, Tom could proceed under the underlying zoning and build his first house. That would be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
While some zoning nuances occur. If Tom felt comfortable enough with that, that's, not sure Tom would.
Well, from my point of view, and having talked to a couple of my neighbors, it's a single family detached neighborhood, both on Pine Street and on Deer Hill, which abuts it behind. So I've always represented that I wanted to do single family detached housing, that's what I know. And I didn't get pushback from anybody on that. The reality is if it wants to be a quad and a 3 or something, I don't know, I'm gonna flip it up to somebody else and I can try that. But I think contextually for the neighborhood and for the neighborhood that exists out behind, single family detached meets our objectives and it also meets the neighbor's objective.
Right. I think for the town, it's an interesting issue because this might come up a lot where people would have an assumption that they could do something small and infill like we've described many, many times in our meetings. So.
I think we would have to get an opinion from EOHLC. Because to go through that again, I mean, we put ourselves out there. To go back before town meeting and say, oh, we're already changing it. Well, I just.
Well, the thing that's difficult is that there were 2 houses on that property and now there will be 7. So, in terms of overall objective of increasing housing, it's the right idea. But it's, what does it say against it?
Right here. It says the multi-family housing, a building with 3 or more residential units or 2 or more buildings on the same lot with more than 1 residential dwelling in each building.
Well, it could be 2 feet.
Right, yeah. The other thing that, 0.8 acres, so, how many square feet is that? 32,000. But how many square feet roughly 32,000 32,000 square feet
Yeah.
in the lot.
Yeah.
So you come in with subdivision. I do.
Which has a planning board process.
Right. But,
The subdivision solves the problem
of for just,
of
you have enough
without
area,
the frontage.
you create a road, and it's the frontage. And, you know, we have to be.
Yeah, there'd be two families,
Yeah.
connected by garage house. It could be separated with a wall.
Yeah, I think as long as they're connected by roofs, it would be.
Yeah, right. But I think that those options are, the third option that I thought about was having one of these smaller, if this town meeting passes, you could have 1,200 square foot ADU with a two-family and I'd have to think through how that would work, but
We could probably do a big one and a small one.
yeah, right.
It changes your whole
Yeah,
program.
it changes the I mean, the ADU is a possibility. I don't know what I can't think of the details right now, but I mean, this to me looks like a subdivision.
Can I ask for a clarification on that? The underlying zoning is not the 6,000 square foot that exists on Pine Street. It's
It's A.
First step is to talk to UHLC to see if we can't allow multiple, single dwelling buildings on a lot.
I just don't see how they'll say yes to that. I mean, it just goes against the whole object and their consultant never gave us that option.
You don't ask, you don't
Yeah.
get.
Yeah, I mean, we're not changing the density requirements at all. And so you're not changing the, how many units can be built, and I guess that's kind of the key thing that they were looking at doing, so.
Well, it's not gonna hurt you asking. The worst that'll happen is they'll say no.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're changing the spirit of what the intent was.
Yeah.
Literally. By doing.
Well, that's the thing,
UHLC,
UHLC, the state's goal was to create multifamily housing. There's more than one unit in a building, that was the state's goal. 3 unit, 4 unit, 20 unit building, that's their goal. However, working within the state framework, we may be able to modify our law to be more flexible than but still comply. That you can still build that 4 unit building or 6 unit building. But we can still give the option, because we're not changing the density, to give them the option of doing detached single families on lots.
I'm not sure how that happens.
I think
Well-
the intent of the entire 3A exercise was to increase density.
Yeah.
To allow to increase density, right? Just because you're allowed to do, was it 15 units per acre?
Right.
Yes.
Doesn't mean a developer would choose. So if there were 2 existing houses on this property, we're increasing it to 7. We're increasing the density a lot. So in some ways, goal achieved, right? The nuance that we did as a town was to try and do it in very carefully selected areas that happened to be single family. Almost every single one, so big one downtown.
So question, John, will eventually you subdivide that whole area? So there's 4 parcels with 4 independent houses?
You can't do that, I just
Can't
want,
because
So you're building these for rent or?
it's A.
No, they're gonna be single family owned, but it'd be like on a condominium. So they'll pay the Morris Association to plow the snow.
Okay.
So you can't do a Gordon, you can't, I was wrong, you can do a subdivision because it's not District D, it's District A, so the.
So that might be, again, this is an ordinance thing too. But you could make that modification in our ordinance to allow that in the A district.
And if I could give you one more thing to think about, if disregard the parcel in its totality, I've already subdivided the 2 lots along Pine Street. Look at this lot in its individuality. As it stands right now, it has the frontage and area to be, a RA lot, a single lot.
Yeah.
You bring it up to 4. I think you're making the objective of the bylaw.
Well, I think the first step is coming against the ULHC if they're gonna allow this kind of thing, and if they do, I think it should be clear when you ask them that you're not asking on behalf of the planning board.
Yes, absolutely.
Because otherwise you could get in trouble.
Good.
I have a technical question. If you go down Pine Street in the west side, there's closer to get in the direction of the harbor. There's a development that almost looks a bit like this, where things are more, the buildings are actually more physically connected.
Yep.
So if in some way these 4 buildings had porticos or something like that, would that satisfy the multi-family?
When if there were.
That's what happened on Pleasant Street too, it's a good example of exactly what you just said.
And across the street from Pine on the other side, there's tons of multifamily housing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just your side of the street.
And the other, I'm going back to my subdivision.
Oh my.
Yeah, I think you could get maybe 2 lots or 3 lots, you don't have to play around with it, and then one of those lots could have an ADU. I don't know.
No, I don't think I could because I don't have frontage on Deer Hill.
You have to create a subdivision road. A subdivision road becomes your frontage.
If the district allowed subdivisions.
First round, so.
Yeah.
But A does not allow subdivisions.
It does.
Okay.
But the lot is to be a certain size.
And have certain frontage and all that.
You have to, the lots, the resulting lots have to comply with the underlying district. But I mean, subdivision. Yeah. So
your total land has to be a certain size.
right, you have to it has to be 2 times, if you want 2 lots, it has to be 2 times your minimum plus the space you're gonna have for your road. And I mean, we used to do them in Newbury, like 3 weeks. It was like these 2 lot subdivisions. I can't get over that we never do them here.
This may be irrelevant to the planning board, but the developer's objective here, I'm trying to create site a small house, 2,500 square feet, first floor master, and some people who are look an awful lot like Tom had.
Senior housing.
Yeah.
Or maybe under the senior housing bylaw, you could.
There you go.
Yeah.
So wait till the town meeting and see what happens.
So the other thing is,
Would this be allowed then?
Sure. Clustered, single family homes, yeah.
It would limit your population to
Yes.
55.
which,
Yeah, doesn't sound like a big one.
a lot of them around.
So just out of the curiosity, not just so you guys know, there, like, you've already heard this, but some other stuff is being chatted about at the state level to encourage smaller single family homes,
Yes.
like starter homes. For example.
The whole starter homes program that they're getting going.
It's just interesting.
It's very interesting.
So the other thought here is that going back to it's District D. I was thinking this, never mind.
I have a question about the square footage of the more units here.
Where are they?
Yeah,
About 2,500 square feet.
a piece.
Like a story and a half. Garage, tucked neatly behind, not facing the street.
And there's a landscape buffer between the 3 single families on Pine Street and these 4, so I thought we had done a pretty, I was expecting more of a, other than a.
It's a lousy design.
And the objective is good, it's just, I mean, thread the needle.
No,
What makes you fit it in?
So I think perhaps just to summarize, maybe we think we're going in the right direction from what we want to do. We realize there's a technical issue that it's not fitting within the bylaw at the moment. But maybe if working together with you guys and with Mark, we can see if it does fit. And if not, we'll have to figure out. What
Just
the
to be
next step
clear, it may not just be the local bylaw,
Right.
but the state.
is. Of course.
That's a reasonable plan, though.
Oh, sure, that's what
Check out the options before you act.
It seems that big picture, the 3A was intended to allow for multifamily housing. It's not like the byline was do not allow single family housing, right? So there seems to be some room there perhaps.
There was kind of that in all the trainings we went to, was.
Yeah, and as we know, the 3A was not perfectly written.
Right.
There's lots of.
Yeah.
These things.
And of course, being the first one that's before you,
Yes,
we,
you're
we're a bit worried that there might be some unknown, you know.
well, it's good that you came here to talk about.
Yeah.
Good.
So the other thing that I'd rather see us rather than opening up MBTA can of worms. The other can of worms that we talked to Mark's holding his head. Another can of worms that's, you know, it's on our list, way down on the list, is to change our cluster bylaw. To instead of having be 5 acres, and I would suggest that this might be a cluster in a good way. And that if you change the cluster bylaw, which should be changed,
Yeah.
that this, so that's just another approach to zoning changes. And we're not gonna be able to do zone changes now.
And that might be more palatable to the citizenry than bringing
Yeah.
it back.
Much more palatable to the beginning.
Is
We
the
have drafted that.
the senior housing is part of the April.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
That would be
And that bylaw is already drafted.
Oh, yeah, it's on the warrant.
Yes.
It's on the
that
warrant.
would be our quickest route.
I'm glad to take a look at that.
It's on the website.
You may still have to change your plan. Your minimum size system.
Minimum.
Well, you could give me your
Maximum.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I meant to give you guys a brief about that.
very good.
Now's not a good time.
So I am.
You mean I think that's a town meeting, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
We abutted the garages, so we had a common wall and they still.
Yeah.
got rid of the houses. Did
Yeah.
you families here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just very
Yeah,
connected
that's
with
the
the
same
police,
person.
even.
Yeah, but you need any kind of
Yeah.
We have to change our driveway situations.
Yeah.
We could do it.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you made the time for us in Portland.
Oh, thank you so much.
That was helpful. So
All right. Okay. What else? Good. Anything more on town meeting articles? I guess the only thing, it's not part of our packet, but I think I've just asked Mark to draft it. I'm not sure we need to vote it. If the downtown does not pass, we would not have a town center and a Harbor's Edge district. Harbor's Edge district and town center are referenced in inns and senior housing.
Oh, shoot.
So we would need to amend those bylaws to remove the those columns from the table and any reference to, but Mark is gonna figure out what that looks like, and hopefully we won't need to use it, but we do need to have it, you know, the backup. So that's the last thing on that.
The summary looks great.
Okay, a couple other matters that were not on the agenda. I went to the MAPC legislative update, which was but what I heard is that there's new EOHLC or no energy, there's some energy bylaw we need to pass. I know about energy storage and energy. Can you look into that?
Is it a
Like,
planning board?
Its deadline is October. And they, I talked to one of the representatives and said, what the heck? We don't have an October town meeting. He said, yeah, it's ridiculous, but I don't think it's a critical, but if we don't have this bylaw for whatever this thing is, that by the date, which we won't, they will be constructively approved because we have the bylaw. It's some sort of energy.
Energy storage.
Yeah, energy storage.
Like
Energy
battery.
So we have to put that on our list.
Is it an environmental?
It's a EOEA. I think. Think of energy storage. The other thing is, where are we on our budget spend for this year?
We have, I don't know every line item.
Yeah.
But we're well within our budget.
Okay. We should try to spend. Yeah. We should look at if there are any services that we need in this fiscal year, so we spend it out if we need it. We don't want to spend wildly, but
Because
Yeah,
then they'll cut our budget next year.
No,
if we
they're
don't
not.
spend it.
Well,
That finance committee.
so Karen's funding is through PPC.
okay.
So her price was within our funding.
Okay.
PPC funding. I would expect that our professional services, we might do some of that to supplement kind of our next work on the general district and the streetscape plan for this section. We might need some of that. So I can't encumber any funds from this year unless I had a contract. So we're probably not going to be able to do that, but we do have professional services funds for next year. So
Well, one thought I had was, maybe training with AP Law or somebody else that.
let's change the topics. I mean, I can also,
Yeah.
bring, get.
I mean, we don't know what a subdivision is. And but the other thing is maybe subdivision bylaws. To have somebody look at those or you look at them.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of time. Anyway, it's just budget is on my mind.
It would be something that we. Here now. We get through.
We keep saying that.
We have been working through things, but we can only do like one big project at a time. The first year we did. Yay.
So we're encumbered, we paid 10,000 or something, 15 toward the grant. For the general district.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably should try to spend that piece this year.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yes, I can,
Yeah, okay. Well, let's keep an eye on that, put that on the agenda list of next meeting. And then- And then you, I'm trying to get out before 9, but I have one other question. And that is, you mentioned CST, cell signaling. I was up there, it doesn't look like anything's happening. We were asking for regular updates and do we have an update from them on, are they starting up again in the spring or?
Yes, excellent idea. We ought to go up there. I pass it every day. I'm wondering, there is zero activity.
Yeah, then.
They had said that when I was there last, I don't know whether I was there with you or I was there another time, but they had said that they would be, once we finished the site work in the fall, they were gonna shut it down for the winter and then they would start building in earnest. And they have more building designs and reviews and everything else, but they would really begin to start construction after the winter.
But we had asked for regular updates, so it'd be good to prod them to make sure we get those. And then also their stormwater is done, right? If we think.
Stormwater system is done right now.
So Weston and
basin's
Sampson should
already
go
installed.
look at it in the spring and then we could release the money. 'Cause we were holding 250,000 for that, I believe, in a performance.
I think you generally wanna hold that till the end of the job,
Okay,
so you don't release the.
they're not asking for it, but we might be able to release more, but you can decide, but it's just, we should have Weston and Sampson.
Speaking of accountability, I'm forgetting the address on Summer Street in the
208.
house on the hill. Wasn't there a bunch of reporting that they were requested to provide at some point and
Which one?
the one up on the
208
hill?
Summer Street.
I think of a month.
Yeah, it is, yeah, I'm just, it just, yeah, I mean.
So there were conditions attached for like spacing when they.
They're more landscape.
Yeah, I mean, it was planting.
Kind of things,
Yeah.
but, you know, they're not gonna be getting to that for a little while.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work still to do there.
Okay, it would probably be useful for maybe Kendall to put our special permits all in one folder. So that we can find them, so if we ever have one that looks like a prior one. Or if somebody asks, we can say, you know, there's the Proctor Street one, there's the Rotunda, there's another one that has been down by the wayside is the transfer station. We asked for vegetation, I think it's. When you look at it, it's getting driven over all the time, but we did ask for vegetation along the road. And it would be good to have some accountability. Please put them on the same place, in a place where we can find. So. Work on that, I think. Okay, anything else? Right,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
I'm not quite done yet.